The Broken Mountain. After some years later, one day, I went to the spotless terrain at the age of 16, I presume. The terrain was surrounded by iron rocks, and molten irons flows like a river. There I found an element that converts its drops into metal. I filled that element in my small iron bottle. Further, I reinvented it as a substance that can be used as a weapon. A small drop of that substance makes an infinite metal object. It can elongate itself. So, I named it as spandex. Spandex can modify any object into the metal with a drop. I kept that as a secret from my father. My father sells the rare items to the Manat people for forging purposes and for other purposes. We wander on the terrains and my mother sells them. We lived a decent life with that antique store. Days passed. One day, Brett came to our store to get the status of new arrivals. But my father doesn't have anything special for him. Brett was the leader's son. So, Brett criticized my father's profession. That makes my anger to an immense level. I replied to him on behalf of my father. This Manat has a vast unknown landforms. So well, you stick with this mountain, I said that casually by fixing the chisel. Brett got irritated, but he kept that within himself. I surely know one day he will return that. I avoid him as I can. But, one day, he provoked my anger by threatening my parents indirectly, so, it's not the period to control my rage. I began to hit Brett hardly. I don't care about the leader, honor, whatever. I just lost my mind. Thereby, I got bad attention of Manat's people. The people started to treat me like a fool. They named me Sinistrad. And by the order of Kent Proctor, I was deported to the spotless terrains of Manat. The leader said Rad should be alone without anyone to my parents. Therefore, I wander on the Manat's landform. But luckily, I know where to get the food, how to extract the water, and so on. Hence, I survived for some days. After marching distances, I saw a mountain, with a large trench in the middle of that mountain. So, I named it as a depressed mountain. The depressed mountain has a small pond of water and a small peak nearby to that pond. I also saw some caves on the inner mountain walls which contained boreals and pie. I overwhelmed and tried to inform my father. But, at a point of time later, I realized that I was deported from the Iron Mountain. By realizing that, I started to collect the ores from the ground of that mountain. I stored it for the future. I eat pie to survive in that mountain. Well, I love the taste of Urk. I miss that along with my parents. I remember my mother's Urk named Belly. She was a fatty Urk I've ever seen on the Iron Mountain. I tried many times to taste it but I get caught by my mother and get punished for that. I recollect those days and laughs within myself. The next dawn, I carved the peak nearby to the pond as a watchtower. I used spandex to create tools. I made a special shelter for me. Though, I missed the Iron Mountain. So, I decided to create a new place for them even they were not there. He decides to spend his time by setting up a new edible land. A few years later, the Iron Mountain trembles and gets collapsed. The people of Man are scared and rush towards Grossberg Gulch. Kent used the art to protect the people from the rock chunks. He stops the falling iron rocks. The second wave strikes the mountain, Kent loses his grip of art and it falls on the broken trench from his hand. Hence, the rocks began to fall on the people. However, Brett rushed to the nearby unspotted terrain to save his life. He separates himself from the Manat's people and lost his path on the unspotted terrain. Kent searched for Brett. Simultaneously, he protects his people. Henceforth, the people of Iron Mountain life were turned as a disaster. Wherethrough the Iron Mountain transformed as a broken mountain. Kent says the people to move ahead and he said I will join with you. But, the people refused the words of their leader at that period. Kent explains about Ard and Brett. Some men volunteered to search the Brett and Ard. They went and searched a lot on the broken mountain. But it was not found in Brett as well. Kent lost the hope and orders the men to fall back to the people. Thereby, Those men take some tools and food for the people and return to the Grossberg Gulch. The people march on the landform of Manat. They roamed as a refugee in the landforms. They lived on the smudge plains with a few Urks. At that moment, here in Depressed Mountain, I built the terrain as edible without knowing anything about the Iron Mountains. Every day, I spent some time on the watchtower. Likewise, on a burning sun, I saw some people march on the spotless terrain nearby to the Badlands. I realized that the Iron Mountain only has humans. Other than that, in Manat, no humankind was present. But I have doubt. I was there by covering my face, and saw the peoples on spotless terrain, and realized that they are my peoples. I searched for my father and mother. I saw them from a certain distance and smiled. Later, I watched the leader Kent. I attempted to reach him and said I know one place to live. Kent questioned me. No one in the Manatas live in the landforms other than the Iron Mountain. So tell me, who are you? It doesn't matter now. You need food for your people to survive. So come with me, I said with a tranquil voice. So, the leader finally agreed and went to the Depressed Mountain. Then, I prepare myself to detach from that mountain. Because of the leader Kent's words. When the time I walk, he again asked me, who are you? I thought I was caught by him. Thereby, I showed my face. The people start to shout Sinistrad after watching a few minutes. They forget what he did to them. The leader ordered the people to be quiet. He asked me, how you find this terrain? I said, I just built it. And I also said to him that I want to go away from this place as per your order. So allow me to leave, I asked the leader, Kent. Nonetheless, he said to me that I didn't have my weapon for now, and you have yours, and that is unique. So, you are the leader now, Kent announced. I got shocked, and the people as well. Henceforth, Kent became a commoner. But people didn't accept that. They see me like a fool after doing such great aid for them. They believe their leader Kent. Kent said I cannot be your leader now. He has the right to maintain this landform as per our ancestor said. Finally, people accept that without preference. I tried my best to help the people. I tried to prove the justice on my side. But that is utterly useless. I can't make them understand what happens. Nonetheless, finally I understood that they can't accept me. At that time, Brett reached to the Depressed Mountain. Though I am very depressed in that mountain. Brett claims he must be the leader of them, and people accept it after several disputes. Hence, I smiled at them and give the position with calm-minded. I can predict people's minds. I can read them. Kent questioned Brett, where did you go and how did you find this place? Brett remains calm. And hence, Kent recognized that something was hiding from him. Herein, when I prepared to leave, Kent said, Brett can't maintain this terrain without his weapon. However, Brett argues with his father, then where is yours? Kent replied, once I was a leader, but now, I am not. So, I don't need any unique weapons. And hence, I lost it. If you want to be a leader, then forge one and claim for it. Kent supports Rad. But I said, there is no use for it, I will give my weapon to Brett. Though, I am a son of Seller. He deserves that. I support Brett. Kent strangely saw me. Wherethrough, I left the place. Now really, I don't know where to build my shelter. I walked on the smudge plains and saw the Iron Mountain. It looks like a broken mountain for me. I went to that mountain and saw its condition. Hence, I came to a resolution to rebuild that mountain to spend my future. I recollect the memories of Iron Mountain. I forged the incomplete weapons. I didn't have enough food to eat. I walked at the other mountains on a snake-tail range for the food to survive. At that time, I slipped at the edge of a small cliff's rim and fell into a hidden trench. The trench was dark enough to hide a splendid sun. I don't know the path. I walked vigilantly by hearing my footsteps. I can't see anything. I have nothing to create the flare. So, I walked for a few distance carefully. Thereby, I saw some light flashing. After reaching that, I realized that they are crystals. When I touch that, it breaks. It's getting into pieces by my hand's temperature itself. Finally, a small piece of crystal was not broken. But even though I handled that carefully, when I prepared to find the way, I saw a shiny metal that is covered with iron particles. I put effort to remove all the iron particles from that metal, but it again attracts them. Finally, I pulled that metal from the iron ores. I think that will be the staunch metal I've found on the Manat. It is light bronze and silvery black. I take that metal along with that crystal. That's the turnover for me. I climbed at the wall of that trench. Thereby, I found an opening. I came out from that trench and feel the outside air. Whilst therein, Depressed Mountain, Brett asked his father Kent about the iron art. He said, "I lost it." Brett quarreled with Kent. He knows how to get the truth from his father. Brett wondered then how you will face the iron storm without that art. Kent replied, "I don't know." Brett left his father's shelter with doubt. Later, he approached the elder blacksmith to forge his bow staff as an art. He also mentioned that it should be like his ancestral art. He waits there. The blacksmith postpones all the work for his leader and begins to do as per the command. He attempts to melt that bow staff, but it is not melting. It stays like a hard metal with a few cracks. He takes that out and saw that. At that time, a small drop of spandex hits the floor and converted as a metal. They both saw that. Brett recognized that weapon's itty, and said to the blacksmith to melt it completely. But blacksmith said it is not melting. Brett replied, "I don't know about that, you should complete my order," he shouts at the blacksmith. After several complicated processes, blacksmith finally melts that and gave it as a substance to Brett. Brett said to forge that into an ancestral art and a large needle that has a grip at the end with that substance. After completion of the forging process, Brett saw the completed art and feels its efficiency. Thereby, he owns a unique weapon. Here, in the Broken Mountain, I didn't have an overview of that staunch metal and I can't imagine what to do with that. I can't even figure it out. It attracts every object made of silvery gray particles, it's like a magnet. When it is in static it attracts, and when I changed its position it repels. I don't know about its potential. Though, I was not a scientist to discover its principle. After all, I am a rover. Yes, I am. Does it sound good? I named myself as a rover, who wanders on the terrains of Manat. Does it matter now? I think it makes sense in this story. However, first I plan to design a flying suit with that metal. Because it attracts, whilst it can repel. I don't know its mechanism, but I know how to use that staunch metal. So, I made that decision. But I have only limited resources. So, I altered my plan to make it as a weapon, not to claim the position. I don't like that. But I want to do that. I need to transform that metal into something which makes sense. Finally, I forge it as a sword. Later, I add spandex to elongate it as a spear. I partially applied spandex on the blade to control the magnetic effect of that metal. Finally, I achieved that, and I can move the iron particles at the place where I want to be. But I didn't master that. So, I practiced to control the blade. I named it as a flare. Because I get that from a dark trench and it gave me the hope there. But, it didn't provide the food to survive. I think, sometimes hope provides you some energy to survive even without food. I managed there with a few resources, but not much to live my entire life. So, I think, I need to find another landform.